Hello, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to watch this short video. My name is Juan Acosta, and I am a medical hypnotist. I have a private practice in Solana Beach, California, and today I want to share with you some information about intentional hypnosis in everyday life. Before we begin, let me tell you that because I'm a hypnotist, sometimes I speak a little weird. And while your conscious mind might be trying to make sense of it all, might be trying to pay attention to every bit and every word, you may find yourself sometimes drifting in and out, sort of that distracted mode, daydreaming mode, in which you'll be thinking, did I get everything? Did I miss something? And don't worry, while your conscious mind is wandering around, your unconscious, for the duration of this lecture, can help you internalize everything that I am sharing with you, and in a way that is more meaningful and will allow you to use it in your daily life, so that you can get great benefit from this. So before we begin, I'd like to talk about what is hypnosis as it relates to this course, so that you can put everything that I'm telling you into the proper perspective. And I define hypnosis as the moment of suggestibility and receptivity, that enhanced learning state in which we can affect profound changes. We can affect profound changes in others, and we can affect profound changes in ourselves. And hypnosis is really natural. It's one of those things that happens throughout the day. For example, if you're driving and you're sort of lost in a daydream, you may miss your exit, or almost miss your exit. That time while you were hypnotized, you have this time distortion. You don't know how you got there. That time is a moment of hypnosis, and that happens very naturally. I'm sure you've all experienced it. How about going to the movies, and you get so involved in the story and so in the characters and everything that's going on that you begin to feel the emotions of the movie. If you ever cried at a movie or laughed at a movie, you feel the emotions that the story is telling you. How about watching the news? People get involved in the news in such a way that they are hypnotized, and that's why advertising in the news is so expensive, because those commercial breaks, people are already loaded. So hypnosis is really everywhere. Hypnosis is everywhere. And the purpose of this talk is that you learn how to easily use and apply hypnosis on purpose. How to utilize those moments during the day in yourself and in other people, so that you can affect changes, so you can influence them to do things, or maybe to get better or be better. And I'm going to share with you these concepts in three main areas: the power of language, conversational trance work, and anchoring. And in every interaction that we have with others, we are communicating. And when we communicate, we are using language, either verbal or non-verbal, but in one way or another, we are using language. So language is ever powerful when it comes to communicating with others. And what you say has to get you a certain sort of response in order for you to say, okay, what I said meant what I thought it meant. The meaning of the communication is the response that you get, right? If you're trying to influence someone to do something for you, and you ask it or say it in a way that doesn't make them do it, then your communication wasn't as meaningful as you hoped. While if you say something and the person does it, then you know that you are communicating congruently with what you are getting back as a result. And one of the ways to make sure that your communication is meaningful and it communicates what you want is to use properly your tonality and inflection, to put the proper emphasis into words. And for this segment, I'd like to talk to you and pay tribute to Zig Ziglar. Talk to you about Zig Ziglar, pay tribute to Zig Ziglar, who just passed away a couple of weeks ago, and I learned a lot from him. And this is one of those concepts that I think I might have first heard from him, but it's a really good story, and it's really easy to grasp the concept from this. So the phrase that he used to explain tonality and inflection and how to use the right emphasis into the words was this: I didn't say he beat his wife. And of course the phrase is pretty funny, but that phrase has 7 different meanings depending on which word you accentuate as you speak it. Here's an example. I didn't say he beat his wife. No, it wasn't me. It was somebody else that said it. Or I didn't say he beat his wife. That's very emphatic, as if you had been accusing me of saying that, and I'm saying I didn't. How about I didn't say he beat his wife? No, I implied it, maybe, but I sure didn't say it. How about I didn't say he beat his wife? No, I was that other guy that was beating his wife. Or I didn't say he beat his wife. He slapped her around a little, but he sure didn't beat her. I didn't say he beat his wife. No, it was that other guy's wife that he was beating. Or I didn't say he beat his wife. No, it was his girlfriend he beat. His wife is safe at home. So, tonality and inflection can change dramatically the meaning of your communication. Just in that simple phrase, I didn't say he beat his wife, there are 7 meanings. And in all our communication, that happens. So becoming aware is what my goal is for this lecture. That you become aware of these things, this minutiae in language that can change the impact of your communication so strongly. The other thing that is important besides tonality and inflection is the order in which you say the words that you say. And just like in math with subtraction and division, the order of the products does change the result. In multiplication and adding, the order doesn't change the results. In subtraction and division, it does. Just like in language. Think about this. Let's do an exercise. Think of a road. Okay? Any road is fine. Now make it of bricks. Okay? Now make it yellow. So you obviously, by this point, you have a thought in your mind about a yellow brick road. But why do you want to make a brain work so hard? Why do you want to make a brain go, okay, road, and maybe you were thinking country road, maybe you were thinking paved road, maybe you were thinking gravel road, no offense. But by the time that I say, oh, now make it of bricks, you have to scratch off whatever you had imagined and go backwards to make bricks out of it. And then I say, make it yellow, and maybe you were thinking of red bricks, and as opposed to just thinking yellow brick road and going from the more global qualities down to the more specific, the more descriptive. If you think about it, if I say, think yellow, what comes to mind? It could be different for everybody. It could be a taxi cab, it could be a post-it note, it could be a smiley face. For anybody, it could be different. But you are not focused on the thing, you are focused on the description, yellow. So think yellow makes it easy for you to wrap that yellow around that brick. If I say think of a yellow brick is a small object that can make up other objects, and then you can easily put it down into that road. And you're talking about from global to specific. Think of a yellow brick road, as opposed to think of a road, now make it bricks, and now make it yellow. The end result is the same. You're going to be thinking about a yellow brick road, but it's a more elegant way of communicating, a more descriptive way, and an easier way to lead the imagination without having to jolt it, without having to make it backtrack. Because maybe while the mind is backtracking, you are getting that interference of, oh, I didn't think of something right, I have to back up and make it of bricks. And that interference is, well, for lack of a better word, interfering with what you are trying to communicate. So in your conversations, you can talk about a beautiful property, selling a beautiful property, as opposed to selling a property that's beautiful. Or if you're a doctor, you could talk about your patient has a small benign tumor, as opposed to you have a tumor that's benign and small, by the way. Or how about you're gonna eat a delicious and healthy meal, as opposed to you're gonna eat a meal that's delicious and healthy. It's just an easy way to lead the imagination in a way that flows, in a way that is natural. If you go back a few pages, we see that the meaning of the communication is the response that you get, which dovetails perfectly into the concept of conversational trance work, which is the second section of this lecture. And conversational trance work is defined as the act of using those moments of hypnosis to create an instance of influence, persuasion, self-improvement, whatever it is that you are, whatever change it is that you're trying to effect. Engaging the imagination and creating that sort of internal search for answers that creates the hypnotic state. So what's important for you to think about when using this conversational trance work is, instead of thinking, what should I say when you're communicating with somebody, think in terms of, what emotion do I want to evoke? And that's profound, so I'm going to repeat it. Instead of thinking, what should I say, think, what emotion do I want to evoke? Because it is emotions that prompt people to take action. It's not thoughts. It's not, what should I say? It's not the intellectual knowledge. It's the emotion that you're able to create with that intellectual knowledge, or that story, or however you're communicating. So once you decide on what emotion you want to evoke, then it's easy to reverse engineer from there and inspire thoughts towards that end. Because thoughts create those feelings. Feelings prompt us to action. And then actions get us results. And whether they're positive or negative results, action gets us results. So our goal as communicators in any industry is to lead the thoughts. Is to create thoughts that are in line, or that would create the feelings that we want to evoke. The emotions that we know we need to create in order for that person to take action, for our communication to be received the way we want it. One thing that you can ask yourself to make this process easy, this reverse engineering process, is, what do I have to say to stir up that emotion? And here's an example. Let's say that I want to instill in you a feeling of curiosity and learning, a feeling of suspense. I could say to you something like this: once upon a time, story time, there was this person that absolutely loved going to conferences, because this person identified with so many people at the conference. There were so many people surrounding this person, and they all had similar interests. So it was easy to talk to anybody. It felt like a family. It was just fun. It's a fun weekend. So this person goes to all the lectures, the 1-hour lectures, and then the extra workshops, and of course visits the vendors, and does all the thing, the whole 9 yards. Enjoys that convention so much, that conference so much, meeting colleagues, just meeting people that have similar interests. And this person learned so much, wanted to become involved, so involved in the field, that this person began to think about, what was it that I learned in this conference? And there was one main theme that came through the whole time, that was actually consistent throughout the whole conference. And this person said that is the most powerful tool, the most important thing that has been learned for the process of communication. And that's that if you put your message inside a story, it's so much easier to effect change. So much easier to have that message be received. So of course the message of my little story just then was, put your message inside a story, because it just makes sense. When I say once upon a time, and obviously in conversation you don't do that, but there are other ways to do that, and I'll show you some examples. But in conversation, you are essentially creating that story, leading the imagination in a way that creates that feeling that you might have been thinking. If you had been to some conventions, you might have thought, yeah, I remember how cool it is when you're there and there's so many like-minded people. It's really enjoyable. Yeah, I remember when I saw the vendors. I remember when I did this. And you are creating that experience inside of you. So that moment is hypnotic. So when I say to you, when I get to the message part and you are going, yes, tell me, then I can say, put your message inside a story. And I will give you another example in just a minute, but I want to emphasize the point that when you think in terms of what emotion do I want to evoke, do I want to create in this person in order to create the action that I want for the results that I'm seeking, you are able to put yourself in the listener's shoes and sort of go through that interaction, go through that experience that you are planning on leading this person in, and decide, okay, in order to take this particular action, how would this person need to be feeling? And you're able to reverse engineer from that into the what should I say, which is much less important. To illustrate the point that what you say and how you say it are two very different things, and one of them is just not as important as people think, is the story about a restaurant. And I've been a restaurant server for a really long time, and one of the things I do is observe and notice and train and teach people how to better communicate with their tables. And there are essentially two kinds of servers. There are order takers, and then there are salespeople. And I'm going to give you two examples of two good servers. They're both good servers. They're just a different style of communicating, and one of them might be more effective than the other. I'll let you be the judge. Let's say that you're sitting at a restaurant and I'm your server. And you are sitting there reading the menu, and you look up and you go, hey, how's your salmon? Fair question. You ask, how's your salmon to the server tells you, and you decide whether you want it or not, right? So the server, myself, goes, well, it's very good. It's cooked medium rare, comes with a side of rice and a side of green beans. Would you like that? Right? It's a knowledgeable answer. It's perfectly fine. I'm giving you all the facts, all the figures, and letting you decide what you want to do with them. It's perfectly fine, and it works. But think about this next approach. Hey, how's your salmon? And the server comes and goes, well, let me put it to you this way. I brought one to that table right there, and when I came back to check on it, the guy was speechless about how good his salmon was. It's just amazing. Would you like one? And you may have noticed that in that short story, I didn't say how the salmon is prepared, what it comes with. I did not say anything, any of that intellectual information, but I created that emotion that prompts people to action. When I say, well, let me put it to you this way, is the same as saying once upon a time, because she's going, okay, I'm listening. And then I say, I brought one to that table over there. So I'm leading her imagination into imagining that she's sitting at that table and her salmon is coming. And then when I came back to check on it, the guy was speechless about how good it was. So of course, she has to experience that in order to be able to feel that emotion. So I'm leading her imagination to experience that. And then I give her the command. It's amazing. Would you like one? It's amazing. More direct. Would you like one? And I've stirred up the emotion of wanting, the emotion of when I say, well, the guy was absolutely speechless. She's going, yes, yes, tell me more. So the person is very interested at that time because there is emotion involved. So it's about controlling not only what the person is imagining, but controlling the process of imagination. Because if I tell you the salmon is great, it's medium rare, comes with rice, comes with green beans, it's easy for you to imagine it. It's easier for you to see that plate with a piece of salmon, the rice, and the beans, but I'm not controlling the process of that imagination. As if I said, lead in with this emotion of wanting, desire, and then move on to, do you want it? So what do you do once you have created that state, once you have created that emotional shift that prompts people to action, is the next topic of this lecture, and is anchoring. And anchoring is, if you remember the story about Pavlov's dogs, it's about creating conditioned triggers, conditioned responses to a certain trigger. So Pavlov would ring his bell and then feed his dogs. Ring his bell and feed his dogs. And through repetition, the dogs learned, of course, that when the bell was rang, it was time for them to eat. So the dogs started salivating just at the ring of the bell, without even having the food in front of them. And that type of anchoring was simply a sound anchor, was an auditory anchor. But anchoring can be done in all our 5 senses. You can do sounds, images, textures, smells, and tastes. Think about a song that reminds you of something happy from the past. Maybe one of those things where you say, oh, honey, that's our song. That song brings back a feeling, brings back an emotion that you remember, and it recreates it inside. So that song is the anchor for that emotion. Think about a picture of somebody that you love. Look at that picture and see all the details in that picture. And doing that creates that feeling of love and connection, or whatever you feel for that person. So that image is an anchor for that feeling. And you can do that with a texture, like think of a blanket, or something that reminds you of it. Think of a smell, maybe somebody that you like or that you love again. Think about their smell. Think about a taste. Think about something that you've tasted now and you can remember something that happened when you were a kid. All those things can easily be anchored. And the way to anchor, the things that are important when anchoring are precision in the timing of the emotion that you are creating, and making sure that there is an emotional state shift. When you were with your boyfriend or girlfriend way back when, and something was going on between you, there was that chemistry, that moment of hypnosis, that song came about, and you identified, because there was that emotion already at play, that song became the anchor for that emotion. And that's how it works. When you ring the bell, the dogs come. So in the same way, you can create these anchors yourself. They require repetition, they require precision, and they require an emotional shift. So if you are creating an anchor for the salmon, for example, let's say I wanted the lady to want the salmon, but she wasn't buying it just yet, or something along those lines. I could have, once I said, I brought it to him, and he was absolutely speechless. It was amazing. All right, I'll be right back. Go get your drinks, come back, and go, hey, I forgot. Did you want the salmon? And I have created an anchor. Doesn't necessarily mean it works that simply. It does require a certain amount of repetition if you have time to work with it. But you can get a certain amount of good responses if you are timely, if you have a good sense of when the anchor should be set, when the emotion is at its highest, and you're able to create a clean state of emotion, and a clean state of whatever it is, whatever emotion you decided you wanted to evoke. So right now I want to give you a bonus, which is, let me sell you something. And of course, there's nothing to buy at this little lecture, but I'm going to sell you something that is going to be content free. And I'm going to do this just so that I can show you how to use spatial anchors and a few other things. So just pay attention. Think about something that you have been wanting to buy, something that you have been craving, anything like that. Whatever it is, just imagine that I am selling you one of those things, one of those, whatever it is that you want to buy. So I could start by saying something like, hey, listen, I understand that my competitors have a fantastic product. Can't deny that. And there are other companies, reputable companies that can bring you more to the table. They can bring more responsiveness, better customer service. While there are some companies that are just so overloaded that it's impossible to give the kind of service, the kind of personal service that companies like ours provide. And I just don't understand how some companies give you so much of that factual information. They just feed you and feed you and feed you information like drinking from a fire hose, while there are other companies that easily lead you through a sales process that is just so easy, it just makes you want to do business with them. Wouldn't you agree? So, would you like to do business with us? And of course, a really simplistic example, but you can see that when I was here, I was talking about my competitors, everything that was bad in the world, wrong with the world, in a way, was right there. Then I stood over here for even a stronger moment of decision of the person seeing the bad happening. And then I'm coming right back over here for the good stuff, the stuff that's reputable, the stuff that's good customer service, always anchoring it to me, and then closing the sale from this side. Do you want to go with those guys, or do you want to go with the company that can make you money, or whatever it is that you're doing? So that little demonstration should be worth the price of admission to this lecture, because it's powerful. It's something that works, and you can use it for anything in any kind of communication. It doesn't have to be that obvious, but you can actually use anchors like that when you communicate, just as a way of learning more about the language, becoming more aware, and becoming more effective in your communications. So I hope you've enjoyed this short lecture and that you'll be able to use all these skills. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My information is below. It is juan@thoughtsintoresults.com, or just thoughtsintoresults.com. And go and check me out. I will look forward to seeing you. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed it.